Ah, the world of video games. Only a few decades ago, they were often nothing more than simple, basic distractions to keep children occupied while their parents were watching horror movies or whatever. And the idea of keeping things simple is still very important today, with simplicity being a key pillar of the indie and mobile gaming scenes, creating some of the greatest gaming experiences of our time. And while those games are all well and good, today we can go so far beyond that. Games can have vast, immersive worlds, intricate mechanics, and captivating stories. Games with hundreds of hours of engaging gameplay that, even when all is said and done, makes you want to go back and do it all again. Mastering all of this is an incredibly difficult task that can often go horribly wrong, but a task that game studio Monolith Soft managed to get down perfectly. Welcome to Why I Love This, the show where I take a game and tell you why it's the best. Time to change some futures. When a game expects you to dedicate up to hundreds of hours to it and it alone, you better hope they give you a very solid cast of characters to keep you company. Sadly, this is easier said than done, and you often end up with just a bunch of boring generic party members that you can barely remember the names of. Xenoblade, well, does not do that. Every one of the 6 playable characters has a unique personality that really complements the group as a whole. You have Shulk, the nerdy and reserved type, Rhine, a rather foolish Defense Force soldier, Sharla, a medic who serves as a sort of older sister to the group, Dunban, a battle-hardened war hero, Melia, a strong-willed Hyantia, and Riki, who while a bit childlike in demeanor, is always a ray of sunshine who keeps the group going through difficult times. And while these personalities can only be shown so much within cutscenes and in-battle dialogue, the game also has what are known as heart-to-hearts, where you can see these characters just, well, having a conversation on a variety of different topics. It's in these moments that you can really see who these characters are, and at least with me, I've really gotten attached to them. And when it comes to being attached to characters, this game has even more to offer. You see this big ol' web thing here? That's what's known as the affinity chart, and it's one of the core mechanics of Xenoblade Chronicles. Here, you can view every NPC in the game, as well as their relationships with others. At first, this chart is rather lackluster. Like, yeah, we have a few circles and maybe some lines connecting a few of them. Whoopee! But as your adventure continues, this can change drastically by talking to more characters, and more importantly, doing side quests. And you will be doing a lot of side quests. In fact, the game contains a grand total of 429 side quests, and that isn't even taking into account story quests or multiple branching paths. Some side quests are nothing more than the basic kill this many monsters or collect this many items, but the majority not only have a story to them, but help enrich the connections between characters. Pretty soon, not only will your affinity chart look a whole lot more like an actual chart, but you'll have met several interesting people along the way. To be honest, the chart itself is kinda meaningless, but it's the stories behind these lines and dots that really enrich the experience, and good stories are definitely not something this game lacks. Alright, so I just want to make this clear to anyone who hasn't played Xenoblade Chronicles yet. If you think this is going to be one of those games that completely forgoes any semblance of a proper narrative in exchange for a more expansive world, you're wrong. Because Xenoblade not only manages to do both, but intertwine the two quite nicely. I'm not going to go through all the specific plot events because A, I don't want to spoil it, and B, this video would go on forever. But just know that it's incredibly memorable, and contains many twists and turns. I also like how the story actually impacts the world and characters. People move from one location to another and quests become available and unavailable, all based on the main plot. Does this mean that it's a pain in the ass to 100% this game? Yes it does. But to me, having a story that doesn't hold back on making big changes to its world far outweighs the potential frustration of having a quest locked out or a few monsters unkillable. And holding back on Xenoblade's world was definitely not on Monolith's mind. So you boot up the game, right? You start off in the area of Colony 9, which is a mildly impressive little village. You got a few beaches to explore, and overall it's a pretty nice area. Then you eventually head out to Tephra Cave, a more dungeon-like area that tunnels through the Bionis, and it's a very twisty area with many branching paths and secrets. So by the time you leave Tephra Cave, you're probably thinking, alright, this game's pretty nice with all these non-linear areas. I wonder what's next. You have no idea. The introduction to the Bionis leg is easily one of my favorite video game moments of all time. While the previous areas were both mildly impressive, you were still confined to a relatively small space. The contrast here is astounding, transitioning straight from the narrow, confined Tephra Cave to easily the most open area of the game. And the game has more than just this area up its sleeve. From the glowing wetlands of Satoral Marsh to the snowy peaks of Valak Mountain, Xenoblade never stops its constant barrage of huge, sprawling areas. Discovering new locations gives you EXP, incentivizing you to explore these areas as much as possible. And every inch of this world is important, as there are new monsters, collectibles, quest objectives, and secrets around every corner, and you wouldn't want to miss one bit of it. Xenoblade Chronicles is one of the greatest JRPGs I've ever had the pleasure of experiencing. I think I can speak for everyone who's played this game when I say that the world of Bionis and Mykonos is one of the greatest in video game history. The game manages to not only create a vast open world filled with memorable characters, but tie it all together with an excellent, engaging story. In fact, even after beating the game, instead of moving on to something else, I just started right back from the beginning with the New Game Plus file, and also, well, make this video. I just couldn't bear to leave Xenoblade Chronicles, and that right there is the mark of a masterpiece.